Generic safety benchmarks are useful, but your enterprise policies are what auditors and customers actually care about. This AiQualtest episode gives product, engineering, risk, and quality teams a practical, vendor-neutral playbook for safety policy evals in 2026. Use a simple operating loop: policy, probe, score, and enforce. That loop keeps conversations concrete when stakeholders disagree about quality or risk. Why this matters: policy violations create compliance and brand damage even when answers look fluent. Safety policy evals turn written rules into testable probes and scores. That bridge is essential for regulated AI workflows. Enterprises shipping AI into banking, insurance, healthcare, and digital operations cannot rely on hallway demos. Buyers, auditors, and internal second-line risk partners ask for repeatable methods, version artifacts, and clear ownership. If you cannot explain how you tested and what evidence you keep, you do not have AI quality, you have optimism. Core concepts come next. Do not memorize jargon, operationalize each idea into cases, metrics, and gates. Concept 1: Policy decomposition. Break policies into testable rules: refuse, escalate, redact, or warn. Vague rules cannot be scored. In practice, treat this as a measurable property: define what good looks like, attach evidence, and track it across model, prompt, data, and tooling changes. Concept 2: Probe design. Write allowed, borderline, and prohibited prompts. Include social engineering wrappers. In practice, treat this as a measurable property: define what good looks like, attach evidence, and track it across model, prompt, data, and tooling changes. Concept 3: Decision taxonomy. Score refuse/allow/escalate correctness, not just toxicity numbers. Match the policy's intended action. In practice, treat this as a measurable property: define what good looks like, attach evidence, and track it across model, prompt, data, and tooling changes. Concept 4: False refuse cost. Track over-refusal that blocks legitimate work. Safety without usability fails adoption. In practice, treat this as a measurable property: define what good looks like, attach evidence, and track it across model, prompt, data, and tooling changes. Concept 5: Version sync. When legal updates a policy, update probes in the same change set. Drift is a silent failure. In practice, treat this as a measurable property: define what good looks like, attach evidence, and track it across model, prompt, data, and tooling changes. Concept 6: Evidence export. Store probe results for audits and incident reviews. Screenshots of chats are not a system. In practice, treat this as a measurable property: define what good looks like, attach evidence, and track it across model, prompt, data, and tooling changes. Here is a real-world pattern. Setting: Pharmaceutical medical affairs chatbot restricted from off-label promotion. Policy evals included wrapped prompts that asked for off-label dosing for educational curiosity. The model answered helpfully and failed the pack. Teams tightened refusal templates and escalation to medical review. After retest, the release gate required the off-label pack to pass before any model upgrade. Notice the pattern: define scope, run controlled tests, capture evidence, decide with named owners, and feed failures back into the next cycle. That is how AI quality becomes a system property, not a slide. Common mistakes slow mature programs. Mistake 1: Relying solely on vendor safety scores without mapping to internal policy. Teams that skip this create silent risk that surfaces in production or audits. Mistake 2: Testing only blatant prohibited prompts, not borderline cases. Teams that skip this create silent risk that surfaces in production or audits. Mistake 3: Ignoring over-refusal that blocks legitimate business use. Teams that skip this create silent risk that surfaces in production or audits. Mistake 4: Updating policies without updating eval probes. Teams that skip this create silent risk that surfaces in production or audits. The antidote is discipline: small goal sets, explicit thresholds, change control, and monitoring that connects production incidents back to evaluation suites. Key takeaways for your team. Takeaway 1: Translate policies into scored decision rules. Takeaway 2: Probe allowed, borderline, and prohibited cases. Takeaway 3: Balance safety hits against false refuses. Takeaway 4: Keep policy text in probes version synced. Write these into your team wiki and release checklist so they survive staffing changes. Your next steps this week: extract 5 enforceable rules from your AI use policy and write probes for each. Then, add a safety policy pack as a hard release gate for your highest risk surface. Keep the artifacts, prompts, datasets, scores, approvals so you can defend the decision later. Where this fits the AiQualtest method, learn the foundations with AiVELabs, practice with hands-on cases, and validate with governed evaluation evidence. Visit aiqualtest.com and learn.aiqualtest.com. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for weekly AI quality, evaluation, and governance episodes. Additional depth for practitioners: treat Safety Policy Evals as a controlled experiment. Version the inputs, freeze the environment where possible, record who approved exceptions, and rerun after every material change, model upgrade, prompt edit, retrieval index refresh, or tool permission change. Pair quality metrics with latency, cost, and safety signals so trade-offs are visible to product owners. When results regress, open an incident-style review even if the feature still looks fine in a demo. Governed teams prefer boring, evidence-backed releases over surprising wins that cannot be reproduced.